Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to We Believe Digital Studios, Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South. With you for our first installment this week of the Newsbreak Show, and Wednesdays and Fridays at 3 p.m. Of course, you can view the show on demand at any time. In case you missed the live show, if you want to catch up on some news stories, just go to WeBelieveDigital.com. Or you can also access us through We Believe Digital on YouTube or Facebook, whatever works best for you and your schedule. So Chris Young with you today. We'll start out at the local level and work our way out. So just reported by WLBT this morning, the legal fees related to a slander suit brought against Jackson City Council President Aaron Banks back in 21 are nearly 3 times what the council initially approved paying. On Tuesday, Banks said the city's legal department was reviewing $14,000 in invoices from the firm that was brought on to represent him. And this was a slander suit filed against him by Pastor Dwayne Pickett. So the agenda item asking the council to amend the November 1st, 2021 order authorizing Banks to retain legal counsel in the case was pulled from Tuesday's agenda. According to city documents, the council agreed to cover up to $5,000 in legal fees related to that suit. So also another story from WLBT, the state's highest court could soon decide whether to remove a municipal judge from office. And this is Attorney Carlos Moore, been around these parts a long time. On Tuesday, Mississippi Commission on Judicial Performance filed a petition to remove Attorney Carlos Moore as the municipal court judge for the cities of Clarksdale and Grenada. Moore has served as Clarksdale judge since 2017 and judge in Grenada since 2020, according to court records. According to the Clarksdale Press Register, he resigned from the Clarksdale Post on Monday, saying he had gotten married and was joining a law firm in Atlanta. And what's behind a lot of this is apparently, he had a media channel. And he was posting a lot of things that people say are not, supposed to against the professional codes and the canon of judicial conduct and things like this. So that's why they were hot on his trail for that. So it looks like he's going to be in Atlanta now and not practicing in Mississippi. Another story. Again, WLBT. A project is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars less. Can you believe this already? Less than anticipated. We don't hear that all the time, right? We always hearing about cost overruns. But this is thanks to the efforts of Jackson's city engineer. On Tuesday, the city council supported paying Wagoner Engineering an additional $276,500 for services related to the Riverside Drive reconstruction project. Quote, through Mr. Lee's work, we negotiated what was an $800,000 amendment down to $275,000. So it wound up costing about half of what was initially reported. This is according to the Deputy City Attorney Terry Williamson. Williamson did not offer details of the negotiations, and the engineer, Mr. Lee, did not comment during the Tuesday meeting. The motion was approved on a 5-0-1 vote, with Ward 3 Councilman Kenneth Stokes abstaining from the vote. So that was some good news there. The city got to save a whole bunch of money. And just by carefully reviewing the documents and then negotiating from there. So we move on out to some broader stories for the state of Mississippi. And, always reminding you that today is another day that our Republican-led legislature has refused to hold any hearings about the largest fraud case in state history. Where upwards of $94, $97 million were misspent, stolen, pilfered, whichever word you prefer, from the federal funding that's received by Mississippi and all other states. Get this money to provide for the poorest of the poor in our state. We're talking about children. We're talking about poor families, and these Republican leaders, in this case, the last governor and the current governor, there's ample information available that they're in on it all, and people that they appointed, and many of those people have pleaded guilty already. They're in jail. But if you can just imagine that they're going to take that, tens upon tens of millions of dollars and use it the way they want to use it instead of the way it was intended. You remember the volleyball stadium, the fitness coaches, the boot camp, for Governor Reeves, the Brett Favre, the volleyball stadium, all this kind of sending wrestlers to rehab on the California coast. And that was money that was intended to help the poorest people in Mississippi. And the legislators are not holding any hearings on it. They're just letting the legalities play out. Now, why do you suppose that is? You think that if hearings are held, that somehow maybe more names will come out? Because a handful of people couldn't have done that all by themselves. There had to be lots of people involved in that. Another example of why things are sizzling in Mississippi. According to Mississippi Today, the Republican National Committee and the Mississippi Republican Party have sued state officials in federal court to prevent election workers from counting some mail-in absentee ballots during the state's upcoming presidential and congressional elections. The national and state GOP plaintiffs argue that a 2020 state law allowing local election workers to count mail-in absentee ballots for up to 5 days after the election date violates federal law because only Congress sets the time frame for when votes can be processed. The Mississippi law currently permits election workers to count mail-in votes if the ballots were postmarked by the election date. And back in 2020, the law that's being challenged, the Republican supermajority passed that bill by a vote of 97-14. The Republican Senate supermajority passed the bill by a vote of 31-14. It was then signed into law by Reeves. So that law is now being challenged. So no longer is the postmark good enough. They want to eliminate any votes that are not in by election day, is what it looks like. So there's reasons why people do stuff like that, and there's reasons why these guys are filing this suit. So we'll keep you posted on it as we go along. After the head of Mississippi Medicaid said his agency needed more time to research a policy that would make it easier for poor moms to receive timely health care, a medical advisory board said it would meet in January to decide whether to recommend that the legislature establish it. However, with just 2 days left in the month, or the last day of the month today, the committee has not met. And documents show the board and agency have been aware of the policy, presumptive eligibility for pregnant women for months, if not years. The state Medicaid director, a guy by the name of Drew Snyder, and CEO of Memorial Health System, Kent Nacaud, thwarted efforts at the Mississippi Medical Care Advisory Committee's December meeting to make a decision on recommending pregnancy presumptive eligibility. Mississippi has the nation's lowest per capita income at Oh, pardon me, that's a period there. We're moving on to the next story. Mississippi has the nation's lowest per capita income at $46,248 annually, and the highest percentage of people living in poverty at 18.2. Now that's an average across the state. We know this area here is much higher poverty rate. Yet the state's tax structure does little, if anything, to try to offset those statistics for the state's poorest citizens. In fact, the tax structure does more than harm the poor than to help them. Mississippi's low-wage earners pay a greater percentage of their income in state and local taxes than do the state's most affluent residents. And that's according to a recent study that was published in January by the Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy. Mississippi has the 19th most regressive tax system in the nation, where low-income residents are forced to pay a larger percentage of their income than the state's wealthier citizens. The study shows the income tax is the only tax that requires wealthy Mississippians to pay more than the poor. Governor Tate Reeves wants to eliminate the income tax. The personal income tax already has been cut twice in recent years. In addition, multiple tax cuts for businesses have also been enacted or are being phased in. So it's a scary kind of proposition there. So that does it for the local and state. And why don't we just go ahead and do the first lengthy story here on the national level, and then we'll cut out for our break. So a big hearing going on in Washington today about online child safety. This is a hearing, a Senate hearing. Chief executives of 5 big social media companies, X, Meta, TikTok, Discord, and Snap, were all in these televised hearings today. They may still be going on right now. Efforts to regulate social media continue to ramp up across the U.S. amid concerns from some parents that social media platforms don't do enough to keep kids safe. In December, more than 200 organizations sent a letter urging Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to schedule a vote on the Kids Online Safety Act, or KOSA, which seeks to create liability or a duty of care for apps and online platforms that recommend content to minors that can never negatively impact or affect their mental health. Other bipartisan bills like the Stop CSAM Act have also been introduced. The tech executives reaffirmed their commitment today to child safety. Many of the social media platforms have pointed to various tools that they offer as examples of how they are proactive about preventing exploitation online. During the hearing, Zuckerberg turned to apologize to the parents that were present at the hearing, parents who lost their kids to suicide behind bullying, and lost their kids due to overdose, due to getting a hold of drugs via certain platforms. So he turned to apologize to the parents that were there, who said that Instagram contributed to their children's suicide or exploitation. And Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina, told him that he has told the group of the executives that they have blood on their hands. And so far, the way the laws are, these companies really can't be sued. They're kind of insulated from that. So it looks like that's getting ready to change finally. So that's it for our first segment, and we'll just take a short break, a couple of commercials for you, and then we'll be right back with you.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippi.link.com and click on Home Delivery.
Welcome back, everybody, to We Believe Digital. So glad you're joining us today, just running through these stories on our Newsbreak show. We'll be back with you again on Friday at 3 p.m. for another installment. Have all kinds of offerings, all kinds of shows for you to watch on We Believe Digital. Again, we have our own YouTube channel, Facebook channel, internet radio. Oh my goodness. You know, we're just exploding over here. We got a lot of new podcasters coming in the studio, bringing a lot of fresh thoughts and hot topics, things going on. So please, check us out, like our programming, subscribe so you get alerts when the shows are coming up. Just, to remind you and all, share with your friends. Let your people know that when you like something that you've seen here on We Believe Digital. So picking back up with the national news story, the Federal Reserve, big meeting announced this morning. These guys have been meeting for days, but people have been really waiting for this meeting. Announced that this morning, that they are keeping interest rates at their current levels and improving consumer confidence and declining inflation rate. In the run-up to Wednesday's announcement, some Fed officials have been signaling that the current rate has been enough to knock down inflation towards the central bank's 2% target. The federal funds target rate has remained at 5.25%. This is the rate that they're charging to lend money to banks. 5.25 to 5.5 since last summer, following 11 increases that began in March 2022. The rate sets a benchmark for other interest rates throughout the economy. Everything from credit cards to mortgages and business and auto loans are all in some way geared to this. Some economists believe these higher rates have helped pull down inflation. So good news on that front. You got to keep working at it and keep bringing it down. FBI Director Christopher Wray, this is a guy that does not seem to pull any punches. He warned about the growing threat of Chinese cyber attacks against U.S. electrical grids and other infrastructure during an appearance this morning before the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. Yup, you heard me right. The House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. Quote, China's hackers are positioning on America infrastructure in a preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if or when China decides the time has come to strike. The excerpts from Wray's prepared testimony released by the FBI said. Wray also argued, quote, there has been far too little public focus, unquote, that Chinese hackers are targeting critical infrastructure in the U.S., such as water treatment plants, electrical grids, oil and natural gas pipelines, and transportation systems, according to the prepared remarks. Quote, and the risk that poses to every American requires our attention now, according to Wray. As Wray testified, the Justice Department and FBI announced they had disabled a Chinese hacking operation that had infected hundreds of small office and home routers with bonnet malware that targeted critical infrastructure. The DOJ said the hackers, known to the private sector as, quote, Volt Typhoon, Typhoon used privately owned small routers that were infected with the KV Bonnet malware to conceal further Chinese hacking activities against U.S. and foreign victims. Wray addressed the malware in his testimony, emphasizing it targets critical infrastructure in the U.S. A plaque commemorating the black family who owned a patch of California beach that was seized in 1924 by segregationist government officials has been stolen. Authorities in Manhattan Beach said this week the copper plaque at Bruce's Beach Park was dedicated last year after the family heirs sold the land back to the government for $20 million. The Manhattan Beach Police Department immediately opened an investigation to identify, locate, and apprehend those responsible, the department said. There are no leads in the case, city spokesperson Alexandra Latranja said. There hasn't been any evidence uncovered that this was related to a hate crime. So they stole the plaque commemorating the black family that owned the beach. People have stolen that plaque. It doesn't sound like a love crime now, does it? So it sounds like a hate crime. Prejudice crime, something like that. Turning to the national news for just a couple of stories, but they're a little on the long side, and that is about the Israel-Hamas war. Okay, this according to NBC News, their section called What We Know. U.S. retaliatory strikes against Iran-backed militants will be a, quote, campaign that could last weeks, officials told NBC News. The targets are expected to include Iranian targets outside of Iran, and the campaign will involve both strikes and cyber operations. Tehran has warned it would respond decisively to any attack on its territory or interests after President Joe Biden said he had decided how to retaliate for the drone strikes on a base in Jordan that killed 3 American service members. All black service members, by the way. I believe the bodies are due back to Dover, Delaware on Friday, and the president will be there to participate in the dignified transfer of remains. Hamas's political leader, Ismail Haniyeh, said Wednesday that he will travel to Cairo to consider a potential new hostage deal. A senior Israeli official told NBC News that the country's war cabinet had discussed the deal, but it had not yet been put to a vote. Meanwhile, a combative Benjamin Netanyahu said yesterday he will not release thousands of terrorists or take Israeli forces out of the Gaza Strip in any ceasefire. The United Nations has warned that the decisions of countries to halt funds to the UNRWA, the primary aid provider in Gaza, could have catastrophic effects and lead to the collapse of the enclave's humanitarian system. The U.S. is among several countries to pull funding for the agency after Israel alleged that aid workers, if you can imagine this, that aid workers were somehow involved in the October 7th attack. Just beyond ability to grasp that. More than 26,900 people have been killed in Gaza since the war began, according to Palestinian Health Ministry. More than 65,900 have been injured, and thousands more are missing and presumed dead. Israeli military officials say 223 soldiers have been killed during the ground invasion of Gaza. About 1,200 people were killed and about 240 hostages were taken after Hamas's multi-pronged attack on October 7th. And the last story for today comes out of Cameroon. Cameroon will be the first country to routinely give children a new malaria vaccine as the shots are rolled out in Africa. The campaign, due to start Monday, was described by officials as a milestone in the decades-long effort to curb the mosquito-spread disease on the continent, which accounts for 95% of the world's malaria death. The vaccine will save lives. It will provide major relief to families and the country's health system, said Aurelia Nguyen, Chief Program Officer at the Gavi Vaccines Alliance, which is helping Cameroon secure the shots. The Central African nation hopes to vaccinate about 250,000 children this year and next year. Gavi said it is working with 20 other African countries to help them get the vaccine, and those countries will hopefully immunize more than 6 million children through the year 2025. So great breakthrough there, and get access to that life-saving vaccine. So that's it for today from We Believe Digital Newsbreak. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions about this platform, want to get through to our Crackerjack producer, the number here is 1-800-492-5186. 800-492-5186. We'd love to hear from you. Have a great day out there. Stay safe. We'll see you again for this show on Friday at 3 p.m.